everyone, I'm Lisa here from Down to Earth Gardening and Design. Welcome to today's video, which is on winter composting. So I live in Connecticut. Currently it's 28 degrees and we've got some snow flurries here, and I'm putting some things in my compost. So I thought it would be a great time to do a video on how you can still compost in the winter if you live in a cold region like I do, or you could even start a compost pile in the winter. So I'm going to talk a little bit about it and give you some do's and don'ts, and some tips for winter composting. So I'm here with my two composters. You may have seen them in a couple other videos I did on composting. I have a tumbler style composter and a bin style. And so today I'm working with the bin composter, which holds quite a lot of material. But I love composting for the fact that I can use a lot of my yard waste and my kitchen waste. And let's face it, in the winter, we still have our kitchen waste. And I do a little more cooking, so I have a lot more of it. So definitely, yes, still use your composter, but here's some tips for you. So first off, in the fall, you can do a little preparation if you've already got your compost piles going. And my tip for that is you could insulate it a little bit by piling up some leaves around the compost bins to hold the warmer temp when it's freezing. Or you could use some straw bales and surround it. So that's number one tip, but you've got to do that in the fall. And as you can see, I missed the boat on that, but I'm not worried. I get really busy in the fall, and I'm just not worried about having these composters still going a little bit in the winter. And then number two thing you can do in the fall is clean out your good compost. Even if you can't use it, store it somewhere, because that's going to give you more room in your bin and your tumbler for adding things throughout the winter. So probably the toughest thing about composting in the winter is getting to your pile, because sometimes we have quite a bit of snow. So that's why I talk about that in one of the videos on things to think about when you're setting up your pile. So I like to have mine accessible, and also accessible to the garden as well as the house. But a little bit out of the eyesight line from my gardens in house. So I feel like I've located mine in a pretty good position, and I can still get to it fairly easily in the winter. But you can keep adding things to your compost bin, and just a couple of things to say about that. So number one is I have some additional scraps here, and I just put them in a glass bowl because I really wanted you to be able to have a good look at them. But my number one tip is shred your scraps or chop them up a little bit, because they will decompose a little faster. So I've got some recyclable paper plates. We just had a little family get together, so I've shredded those. You're really getting to know me here. I've got my coffee filter and some coffee grounds, which are considered green when you're composting. I've got some pansies here that I had in the freezer. I'm just cleaning out my freezer. So it may seem a little odd, but you may have seen those in some other videos. And then, of course, some veggies, tomatoes, and some eggshells. So tip is to just make sure they're a little smaller. So my second tip is we have a lot of green material in the winter. So be sure to continue putting your brown material in, because the ratio from green to brown is 1 to 3. And even if you're trying to achieve 50%, that's still great during the winter. So brown materials can be a little tougher, because like I said, we have a lot of kitchen scraps. And so what I'll try to use are my newspapers, my cardboard boxes. If there's no snow on the ground, I will gather up some brown leaves. And I did use some of those compostable paper plates, so I'm also using those. So make sure you add a good amount, and then you just keep layering it. So my don't is don't turn your piles. So don't tumble, don't turn your piles, because then what you're doing is you're aerating them. Now I would normally tell you to do that for the other 3 seasons, but winter, don't disturb it. It's still retaining some heat, and at times when it's not frozen, it's still decomposing. It's a little bit slower, but your good organisms, your microorganisms, and your earthworms and your pill bugs, they're still able to survive in there. And so when it's not frozen, it's slowed down, but it's still happening. So don't disturb that process. So that's it, folks. So yes, keep composting. We're going to be so happy that we did in the spring when we get out there in the gardens and start planting. Our plants are going to love it. So thanks for joining me today, and I really hope I'm going to see you again next time. I have so many more gardening topics that I want to talk about, so please join me in the future.